Krishna, so welcome everyone. So we're here again in Prabhupada House for our reading of Krishna book. And we're going to start by offering our obeisances first to Srila Prabhupada and then to each other. Namo
Vishnupada Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharana Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vastude Deshatare Yoga Kripa Sindhu Bhattacharya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo.
Okay, so we're going to begin our reading. So at the moment we're up to chapter 34, entitled Vidyadhara liberated and the demon Sankashuda killed. Once upon a time, the cowherd men of Vrindavan, headed by Nanda Maharaj, desired to go to Ambikavan to observe the Shiva Rakshi ceremony. The Rasa Lila was performed during the autumn, and after that, the next big ceremony is Holi, or the Dolayatra ceremony. Between the Dolayatra ceremony and the Rasa Lila ceremony, there is one important ceremony called Shiva Rakshi, which is especially observed by the Shaivites, or devotees of Lord Shiva. Sometimes the Vaishnavas also observe this ceremony because they accept Lord Shiva as the foremost Vaishnava. But the function of Shiva Ratri is not observed very regularly by the Bhaktas or devotees of Krishna. Under the circumstances, Srimad Bhagavatam states that Nanda Maharaj and the other cowherd men once upon a time desired. This means that they were not regularly observing the Shiva Ratri function, but that once upon a time they wanted to go to Ambikavan out of curiosity. Ambikavan is somewhere in Gujarat province, and it is said to be situated on the river Saraswati. Yet we do not find any Saraswati in Gujarat province, although there is a river named Sabarmati. In India, all the big places of pilgrimage are situated on nice rivers like the Ganges, Yamuna, Saraswati, Narmada, Godavari, and Kaveri. Ambikavan was situated on the bank of Saraswati, and Nanda Maharaj and all the other cowherd men went there.
Is this okay? It's okay, you can start reading.
They were devotedly began to worship the deity of Lord Shiva and Ambika. It is the general practice that whenever there is a temple of Lord Shiva, there must be another temple of Ambika or Durga. Because Ambika is the wife of Lord Shiva and is the most exalted of chaste women. She doesn't live outside the association of her husband. After reaching Ambikavan, the cowherd men of Vrindavan first bathed themselves in the river Saraswati. If one goes to any place of pilgrimage, his first duty is to take a bath and sometimes to shave his head. That is the first business. After taking a bath, they worship the devotees and then distributed charity in the holy place. According to the Vedic system, charity is given to the Brahmins. It is stated in the Vedic Shastras that only the Brahmins and the sannyasis can accept charity. The cowherd men from Vrindavan gave the Brahmins cows decorated with golden ornaments and beautiful garlands. The Brahmins are giving charity because they are not engaged in any business profession. They are supposed to be engaged in Brahminical occupations as described in Bhagavad-Gita. Namely, they must be very learned and must perform austerity and penance. Not only must they themselves be learned, but they must also teach others. Brahmins are not meant to be Brahmins alone. They should create other Brahmins also. If a man is found who agrees to become a Brahman's disciple, he is also given the chance to become a Brahman. The Brahman is always engaged in worship of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, the Brahmins are eligible to accept all kinds of charity. But if the Brahmins receive excess charity, They are to distribute it for the service of Vishnu. In the Vedic scriptures, therefore, one is recommended to give charity to Brahmins, and by doing so, one pleases Lord Vishnu and all the demigods.
The pilgrims take a bath, worship the deity, and give charity. They are also recommended to fast one day. They should go to a place of pilgrimage and stay there at least for 3 days. The first day is spent fasting, and at night they can drink a little water because water does not break the fast. The cowherd men, headed by Nanda Maharaj, spent that night on the bank of the Saraswati. They fasted all day and drank a little water at night. But while they were taking rest, a great serpent from the nearby forest appeared before them and hungrily began to swallow up Nanda Maharaj. Nanda cried out helplessly, "My dear son, Krishna, please come and save me from this danger. This serpent is swallowing me." When Nanda Maharaj cried for help, all the cowherd men got up and saw what was happening. They immediately took up burning logs and began to beat the snake to kill it. But in spite of being beaten with burning logs, the serpent was not about to give up swallowing Nanda Maharaj.
At that time, Krishna appeared on the scene and touched the serpent with his lotus feet. Immediately, upon being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, the serpent shed its reptilian body and appeared as a very beautiful demigod named Vidyadhara. His bodily features were so beautiful that he appeared to be worshipable. There was a luster and effulgence emanating from his body, and he was garlanded with a gold necklace. He offered obeisances to Lord Krishna and stood before him with great humility. Krishna then asked the demigod, "You appear to be a very nice demigod and to be favored by the goddess of fortune. How is it that you perform such abominable activities that you got the body of a serpent?" The demigod then began to narrate the story of his previous life. "My dear Lord," he said, "in my previous life I was named Vidyadhara and was known all over the world for my beauty. Because I was a celebrated personality, I used to travel all over in my airplane. While traveling, I saw a great sage named Angira. He was very ugly, and because I was very proud of my beauty, I laughed at him. Due to this sinful act, I was condemned by the great sage to assume the form of a serpent."
One should note here that before being favored by Krishna, a person is always under the modes of material nature. However elevated he may be materially. Vidyadhar was a materially elevated demigod, and he was very beautiful. He also held a great material position and was able to travel all over by airplane. Yet he was condemned to become a serpent in his next life. Any materially elevated person can be condemned to an abominable species of life if he is not careful. It is a misconception that after reaching the human body, one is never degraded. Vidyadhar himself stated that even though he was a demigod, he was condemned to become a serpent. But because he was touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, he immediately came to Krishna consciousness. He admitted, however, that in his previous life he was actually sinful. A Krishna conscious person knows that he is always the servant of the Krishna. He is most insignificant, and whatever good he does is by the grace of Krishna and spiritual master. The demigod Vidyadhar continued to speak to Sri Krishna. Because I was very proud of the exquisite beauty of my body, he said, I derided the ugly features of the great sage Anglia. He cursed me for my sin, and I became a snake. Now, I consider that this curse by the sage was not at all curse. It was a great benediction for me. Had he not cursed me, I would not have assumed the body of the serpent, and would not have been kicked by your lotus feet, and thus freed from all material contamination.
Material assets sometimes become sources of sin and degradation. Despite Vidyadhara's being a demigod and having a beautiful body, he was condemned to the body of a snake due to pride. Therefore, from this incident, we can learn that those who are too proud of their material assets or who are inimical toward others are degraded to the bodies of snakes. A snake is considered to be the most cruel and envious living entity, but those who are human beings and are envious of others are considered to be even more vicious than snakes. The snake can be charmed or controlled by mantras and herbs, but a person who is envious.
My dear Lord, Vidyadhara continued, now, since I think I have become free from all kinds of sinful activities, I am asking your permission to return to my abode, the heavenly planets. This request indicates that persons who are attached to fruitive activities, desiring promotion to the comforts of higher planetary systems, cannot achieve their ultimate goal of life without the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is also stated in the Bhagavad-Gita that the less intelligent want to achieve material benefits and therefore worship different kinds of demigods, but that they actually get the benedictions from the demigods through the permission of Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Demigods have no power to bestow material profits. Even if one is attached to material benedictions, he can worship Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and ask him. Krishna is completely able to give even material benedictions. There is a difference, however, between asking material benedictions from the demigods and asking them from Krishna. Dhruva Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead for a material benediction. But when he actually achieved the favor of the Supreme Lord and saw him, he was so satisfied that he refused to accept any material benediction. The intelligent person does not worship the demigods or ask favors from them. He directly becomes Krishna conscious, and if he has any desire for material benefit, he asks Krishna, not the demigods.
Vidyadhara, awaiting Krishna's permission to return to heavenly planets, said, now, because I have been touched by your lotus feet, I am relieved of all kinds of material pangs. You are the most powerful of all mysteries. You are the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. You are the master of all devotees. You are the proprietor of all planetary systems, and therefore I am asking your permission. You may accept me as a fully surrendered unto you. I know very well that persons who are constantly engaged in chanting your holy name attain release from all sinful reactions. And certainly, persons who are fortunate enough to be personally touched by your lotus feet are free. Therefore, I am sure that I am now relieved of all the curse of the Brahman simply by seeing you and being touched by your lotus feet. In this way, Vidyadhar got permission from Lord Krishna to return to his home in the higher planetary system. After receiving this permission,
By the damsels of Rajabhumi, and they began to enjoy their company. The young damsels of Raja were very nicely dressed and anointed with pulp of sandalwood and decorated with flowers. The moon was shining in the sky, surrounded by glittering stars. The breeze was blowing, bearing the aroma of malika flowers, and the bumblebees were mad after the aroma. Taking advantage of the pleasing atmosphere, Krishna and Balaram began to sing very melodiously. The damsels became so absorbed in their rhythmical song that they almost forgot themselves. Their hair loosened, their clothes slackened, and their garlands began to fall to the ground.
At that time, while Krishna, Balaram, and the damsels were so much absorbed, almost in madness, a demoniac associate of Kuvera, the treasurer of the heavenly planets, appeared on the scene. The demon's name was Sankashuda, because on his head there was a valuable jewel resembling a conch shell. Just as the two sons of Kuvera had been puffed up over their wealth and opulence and did not care for Narada Muni's presence, this Shankasuda was also puffed up over material opulence. He thought that Krishna and Balaram were two ordinary cowherd boys enjoying the company of many beautiful girls. Generally, in the material world, a person with riches thinks that all beautiful women should be enjoyed by him. Sankashuda also thought that since he belonged to the rich community of Kuvera, he, not Krishna and Balaram, should enjoy the company of so many beautiful girls. He therefore decided to take charge of them. He appeared before Krishna, Balaram, and the damsels of Raj and began to lead the girls away to the north. He commanded them as if he were their proprietor and husband, despite the presence of Krishna and Balaram. Being forcibly taken away by Sankashuda, the damsels of Raj called out the names of Krishna and Balaram for protection. The two brothers immediately began to follow them, taking up big logs of shala wood in their hands. "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid," they called to the gopis. "We are coming at once to chastise this demon." Very quickly they reached Shankashuda. Thinking the brothers too powerful, Shankashuda left the company of the gopis and ran in fear of his life. But Krishna would not let him go. He entrusted the gopis to the care of Balaram and followed Sankashuda wherever he fled. Krishna wanted to take the valuable jewel resembling a conch shell from the head of the demon. After following him a very short distance, Krishna caught him, struck his head with his fist and killed him. He then took the valuable jewel and returned. In the presence of all the damsels of Raj, he presented the valuable jewel to his elder brother, Balaram. And thus ends the Bhakti-yoga purport of the 34th chapter of Krishna. Vidyadhara liberated and the demon Sankashuda killed.
You have it set up for it's not okay.
Chapter 35. The Gopis' feelings of separation.
Little slower.
The gopis of Vrindavan were so attached to Krishna that they were not satisfied simply with the rasa dancer connect. They wanted to associate with him and enjoy his company during the daytime also. When Krishna went to the forest with his coward boyfriends and the cows, the gopis did not physically take part, but their hearts went with him. And because their hearts went, they were able to enjoy his company through strong feelings of separation. To acquire this strong feeling of separation is teaching of Lord Chaitanya and his direct disciple succession of Goswamis. When we were not in physical contact with Krishna, we can associate with him like the gopis through feelings of separation. Krishna's transcendental form, qualities, pastimes, and entourage are all identical with him. There are 9 different kinds of devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna, feelings of separation elevates the devotee to the highest perfectional level, to the level of gopis.
It is stated in Srinivacharya's prayer to the 6 Goswamis that they left the material opulences of government service and the princely status of life and went to Vrindavan, where they lived just like ordinary mendicants, begging from door to door. But they were so much enriched with the gopis' feeling of separation that they enjoyed transcendental pleasure at every moment. Similarly, when Lord Chaitanya was at Jagannath Puri, he was in the role of Radharani, feeling separation from Krishna. Those who are in the disciplic succession of the Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya should always feel separation from Krishna, worship his transcendental form, and discuss his transcendental teachings, his pastimes, his qualities, his entourage, and his association. That will enrich the devotees to the highest devotional perfection. Feeling constant separation while engaged in the service of the Lord is the perfection of Krishna consciousness.
The gopis used to discuss Krishna amongst themselves, and their talks were as follows. My dear friends, one gopi said, do you know that when Krishna lies on the ground, he rests on his left elbow, and his head rests on his left hand? He moves his attractive eyebrows while playing his flute with his delicate fingers, and the sound he produces creates such a nice atmosphere that the denizens of the heavenly planets who travel in space with their wives and beloveds stop their airplanes, for they are stunned by the vibration of the flute. The wives of the demigods who are seated in the plains then become very much ashamed of their singing and musical qualifications. Not only that, but they become afflicted with conjugal love, and their hair and tight clothes immediately loosen.
Another gopi said, my dear friends, Krishna is so beautiful that the goddess of fortune always remains on his chest, and he is always adorned with the golden lilies. Beautiful Krishna plays his flute in order to enliven the hearts of many devotees. He is the only friend of suffering living entities. When he plays his flute, all the cows and other animals of Vrindavan, although engaged in eating, simply take a morsel of food in their mouths and stop chewing. Their ears raise up, and they become stunned. They do not appear alive like painted animals. Krishna's flute playing is so attractive that even the animals become enchanted, and what to speak of ourselves.
Another gopi said, my dear friends, not only living animals, but even inanimate objects like the rivers and lakes of Vrindavan also become stunned when Krishna passes with peacock feathers on his head and his body smeared with the minerals of Vrindavan. With leaves and flowers decorating his body, he looks like some hero. When he plays on his flute and calls the cows with Balaram, the river Jamuna stops flowing and waits for the air to carry dust from his lotus feet. But the river Jamuna is unfortunate, like us, and does not get Krishna's mercy. The river simply remains stunned, stopping its waves, just as we also stop crying for Krishna in expectation. In the absence of Krishna, the gopis were constantly shedding tears, but sometimes when they expected that Krishna was coming, they would stop crying. But when they saw that Krishna was not coming, then again they would become frustrated and begin to cry.
Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, the origin of all Vishnu forms, and the cowherd boys are all demigods. Lord Vishnu is always worshipped and surrounded by different demigods like Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Indra, Chandra, and others. When Krishna travelled through the Vrindavan forest or walked on Govardhan Hill, he was accompanied by the cowherd boys. While walking, he played his flute just to call his cows. Just by his association, the trees, plants, and other vegetation in the forest immediately became Krishna conscious. A Krishna conscious person sacrifices everything for Krishna. Although the trees and plants were not very advanced in consciousness, by the association of Krishna and his friends, they also became Krishna conscious. They then wanted to deliver everything, whatever they had, namely their fruits, flowers, and the honey incessantly falling from their branches.
When Krishna
When Krishna walked on the bank of Jamuna, he was seen nicely decorated with tilak on his face. He was garlanded with different kinds of forest flowers, and his body was smeared with the pulp of sandalwood and tulsi leaves. The bumblebees became mad after the fragrance and sweetness of the atmosphere. Being pleased by the humming sound of bees, Krishna would play his flute, and together the sounds became so sweet to hear that aquatic birds like cranes, swans, and ducks were charmed. Instead of swimming or flying, they became stunned. They closed their eyes and entered a trance of meditation in worship of Krishna. One gopi said, "My dear friends, Krishna and Balram are nicely dressed with earrings and pearl necklaces. They enjoy themselves on the top of Govardhan Hill, and everything becomes absorbed in transcendental pleasure when Krishna plays on his flute, charming the whole created manifestation. When he plays, the clouds stop their loud thundering out of fear of him, rather than disturb the vibration of his flute. They respond with mild thunder, and so congratulate Krishna therefore.
Krishna is accepted as the friend of the cloud because both the cloud and Krishna satisfy the people when they are disturbed. When the people are burning due to excessive heat, the cloud satisfies them with rain. Similarly, when people in materialistic life become disturbed by the blazing fire of material pangs, Krishna consciousness gives them relief like a cloud. The cloud and Krishna, having the same bodily color also, are considered to be friends. Desiring to congratulate its superior friend, the cloud poured not water, but small flowers, and covered the head of Krishna, just like an umbrella, to protect him from the scorching sunshine. One of the gopis told Mother Yashoda, "My dear mother, your son is very expert among the cowherd boys. He knows all the different arts of how to tend the cows and how to play the flute. He composes his own songs, and to play them, he puts his flute to his mouth. When he plays, either in the morning or in the evening, all the demigods, including Lord Shiva, Brahma, Indra, and Chandra, bow their heads and listen with great attention. Although they are very learned and expert, they cannot understand the musical arrangements of Krishna's flute. They simply listen attentively and try to understand, but they become bewildered and nothing more."
Another gopi said, "My dear friends, when Krishna returns home with his cows, the footprints of the soles of his feet, with flag, thunderbolt, trident, and lotus flower, relieve the pain the earth feels when the cows traverse it. He walks in a stride which is so attractive, and he carries his flute. Just by looking at him, we become lusty to enjoy his company. At that time, our movements cease. We become just like trees and stand perfectly still, unaware that our hair and clothes are loosening. Krishna had many thousands of cows, and they were divided into groups according to their colors. They were also differently named according to color. When he would prepare to return from the pasturing ground, he would gather all the cows. As Vaishnavas count 108 beads, which represent the 108 individual gopis, so Krishna would also count on 108 beads to count the different groups of cows.
When Krishna returns, he is garlanded with tulsi leaves. A gopi described him to a friend. He puts his hand on the shoulder of a cowherd boyfriend and begins to blow his transcendental flute. The wives of the black deer become enchanted upon hearing the vibration of his flute, which resembles the vibration of wind. The deer come to Krishna and become so charmed that they stand still, forgetting their homes and husbands. Like us, who are enchanted by the ocean of transcendental qualities of Krishna, the she deer become enchanted by the vibration of his flute. Another gopi told Mother Yashoda, "My dear mother, when your son returns home, he decorates himself with the buds of kundan flowers, and just to enlighten and gladden his friends, he blows his flute. The breeze blowing from the south creates a pleasing atmosphere because it is fragrant and very cool. Minor demigods like the Gandharvas and Siddhas take advantage of this atmosphere and offer prayers to your son by sounding their buckles and drums. Krishna is very kind to inhabitants of Brajbhumi, Vrindavan, and when he returns with his cows and friends, he is remembered as the lifter of Govardhan Hill. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the most exalted demigods like Lord Ram, Brahma, and Lord Shiva come down to offer their evening prayers, and they accompany the cowherd boys in glorifying the qualities of Krishna.
Krishna is compared to the moon born in the ocean of the womb of Devaki. When he returns in the evening, it appears that he is fatigued, but he still tries to gladden the inhabitants of Vrindavan by his auspicious presence. When Krishna returns garlanded with flowers, his face looks beautiful, adorned with golden earrings. He walks into Vrindavan with a stride just like the elephants and slowly enters his home. Upon his return, the men, women, and cows of Vrindavan immediately forget the scorching heat of the day.
Such descriptions of Krishna's transcendental pastimes and activities were remembered by the gopis during his absence from Vrindavan. They give us some idea of how attractive Krishna is, not only to human beings, but to all animate and inanimate objects. In Vrindavan, the trees, the plants, the water, animals like the deer and cows, everybody and everything is attracted to Krishna. That is the perfect description of Krishna's attraction. The example of the gopis is very instructive to persons who are trying to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. One can very easily associate with Krishna simply by remembering his transcendental pastimes. Everyone has a tendency to love someone. That Krishna should be the object of love is the central point of Krishna consciousness. By constantly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and remembering the transcendental pastimes of Krishna, one can be fully in Krishna consciousness and thus make his life sublime and fruitful. Thus ends the Bhakti-Vedanta purport of 35th chapter of Krishna. the gopis' feelings of separation.
Wait a minute, we started at 4. The new schedule is 4 to 5. So we're almost finishing.
Chapter 36. Kansa sends a cruel for Krishna. Vrindavan was always absorbed in thought of Krishna. Everyone remembered his pastime and was constantly immersed in the ocean of transcendental bliss. But the material world is so contaminated that even in Vrindavan, the asuras or demons try to disturb the peaceful situation. Once a demon named Aritasur entered the village in the form of great bull with a gigantic body and huge horns, digging up the earth with his feet. When the demon entered Vrindavan, the whole land appeared to tremble, as if there were an earthquake. He roared fiercely, af- and after digging up the earth of the riverside, he entered the village proper. The fearful roaring of bull was so piercing that some of the pregnant cows and women had miscarriages. Its body was so big, stout, and strong that a cloud hovered over its body, just as clouds hover over mountains. Adityasur entered Vrindavan with such a fearful appearance that just on seeing this great demon, all the men and women were afflicted with great fear, and the cows and the other animals fled the village. The situation became very terrible, and all the inhabitants of Vrindavan began to cry, Krishna, Krishna, please save us. Krishna saw the cows were running away, and he immediately replied, Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. He then appeared before Aristasur. You lowest of living entities, why are you frightening the inhabitants of Google? What will you gain by this action? If you have come to challenge my authority, then I am prepared to fight you. In this way, Krishna challenged the demon, and the demon became very angry by the words of Krishna. Krishna stood before the bull, resting his hands on the shoulder of the ram. The bull proceeded towards Krishna in anger, digging the earth with his root. Aristasur lifted his tail, and it appeared that clouds were hovering about the tail. His eyes were reddish and moving in anger, pointing his horns at Krishna. He charged him just like a thunderbolt of thunder. But Krishna immediately caught his horn and tossed him away. Just a gigantic elephant repels a small, inimical elephant. Although the demon was perspiring and appeared very tired, he took courage and got up. Again he charged Krishna with great force and anger. While rushing towards Krishna, he breathed very heavily. Krishna again caught his horn and immediately threw him to the ground, breaking his horn. Krishna then began to kick his body, just as one squeezes a wet cloth on the ground. Be- Being thus kicked by Krishna, Arisasur rolled over and began to move his legs violently, bleeding from the mouth and passing stool and urine, his eyes starting from their socket. He passed to the kingdom of heaven.
Demigods in the celestial planets showered flowers on Krishna for this wonderful achievement. Krishna was already the life and soul of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And after killing this demon in the shape of a bull, he became the cynosure of all eyes. With Balrama, he triumphantly entered Vrindavana village, and the inhabitants glorified him and Balarama with great jubilation. When a person performs some wonderful feat, his kinsmen and relatives and friends naturally become jubilant. It was after this incident that the great sage Narada disclosed to Krishna the secret of Krishna. Narada Muni is generally known as Deva Krishna, which means that he can be seen only by demigods or persons on the same level with the demigods. But Narada visited Kamsa, who was not at all on the level of the demigods, and allowed Kamsa to see him. Of course, Kamsa also saw Krishna. what to speak of Narada. But unless one sees the Lord or his devotees with purified eyes, one cannot derive their actual benefit. Of course, anyone who associates with the pure devotee derives imperceptible benefit, which is called Ajnada Shukriti. One cannot understand how he is making progress, yet he makes progress by seeing the devotee of the Lord. Narada Muni's mission was to finish things quickly. Krishna appeared in order to kill the demons, and Kamsa was a chief among them. Narada wanted to expedite things, therefore he immediately approached Kamsa with all the real information. You are to be killed by the eighth son of Vasudeva. Narada told Kamsa that eighth son is Krishna. You were misled by Vasudeva into believing that the eighth issue of Vasudeva was a daughter. Actually, the daughter was born to Yasoda, the wife of Nanda Maharaja. And Vasudeva exchanged his son for the daughter. So you were misled. Krishna is the son of Vasudeva, as is Balarama. Being afraid of your sight, being afraid of your atrocious nature, Vasudeva has tactfully hidden them in Vrindavan out of your sight. Narada further informed Kamsa, Krishna and Balarama have been living incognito in the care of Nanda Maharaja. All the asuras, your companions, who were sent to Vrindavan to kill different children, were killed by Krishna and Balarama.
As soon as Kamsa got this information from Narada Muni, he took out his sharp sword and prepared to kill Vasudeva for his duplicity. But Narada pacified him. You are not to be killed by Vasudeva, he said. Why are you so anxious to kill him? Better try to kill Krishna and Balaram. But in order to satisfy his wrath, Kamsa arrested Vasudeva and his wife and shackled them in iron chains. Acting on the new information, Kamsa immediately called for the Keshi demon and asked him to go to Vrindavan immediately to kill Balaram and Krishna. In actuality, Krishna asked Keshi to go to Vrindavan to be killed by Krishna and Balaram. In actuality, Kamsa asked Keshi to go to Vrindavan to be killed by Krishna and Balaram and thus get salvation. Then Kamsa called for his expert elephant trainers as well as for the wrestlers Shanura, Mustika, Shala, Toshala, and he told them, My dear friends, try to hear me attentively. At Nanda Maharaja's place in Vrindavan, there are two brothers, Krishna and Balaram. They are actually two sons of Vasudeva. As you know, I have been destined to be killed by Krishna. There is a prophecy to this effect. Now, I am requesting you to arrange for a wrestling match. People from different parts of the country will come to see the festival. I will arrange to get those two boys here, and you will try to kill them in the wrestling arena.
Wrestling matches are still enjoyed by people in northern India.
Slowly.
And it appears from statement of Srimad Bhagavatam that 5,000 years ago, wrestling was also popular. Kamsa planned to arrange such a wrestling competition and to invite people to visit. He also told the trainers of the elephants, be sure to bring the elephant named Kubala Tinga and keep him at the gate of wrestling arena. tried to capture Krishna and Balaram on their arrival and have kidnapped and killed them. Kamsa also advised his friends to arrange to worship Lord Shiva by offering animal sacrifices and performing the sacrifice called Dhanurya and the sacrifice performed on the 14th day of the month known as Chaturdasi. This date falls 3 days after Ekadasi and it is set aside from worship of Lord Shiva. One of the plenary portion of Lord Shiva is Kalabhairav. This form of Lord Shiva is worshipped by demons who offer animals killed before them. This process is still current in India in a place called Baidyanath Dham, where demons offer animal sacrifices to the deity of Kalbhairav. Kamsa belonged to this demonic group. He was also an expert diplomat and so he quickly arranged for his demon friends to kill Krishna and Balaram.
He then called for Akrura, one of the descendants in the family of Yadu, in which Krishna was born as the son of Vasudeva. When Akrura came to see Kamsa, Kamsa very politely shook hands with him and said, "My dear Akrura, actually I have no better friend than you in the Bhoja and Yadu
A
dynasties.
little slower so we can understand.
You are the most munificent person. So, as a friend, I am taking charity from you. Actually, I have taken shelter of you exactly as King Indra takes shelter of Lord Vishnu. I request you to go immediately to Vrindavan and find the two boys named Krishna and Balarama. They are the sons of Nanda Maharaja. Take this nice chariot, especially prepared for the boys, and bring them here immediately. That is my request to you. Now my plan is to kill these two boys. As soon as they come in the gate, there will be a giant elephant named Kolaya Pila waiting, and possibly he will be able to kill them. But if somehow or other they escape, they will next meet the restless and will be killed by them. That is my plan. And after killing these two boys, I shall kill Vasudeva and Nanda, who are supporters of the Vrishni and Buddha dynasties. I shall also kill my father Ugrasena and his brother Devaka, because they are actually my enemies and are hindrances to my diplomacy and politics. Thus I shall get rid of all my enemies. Jarasandha is my father-in-law, and I have a great monkey friend named Divida. With their help, it will be easy to kill all the kings on the surface of the earth who support the demigods. This is my plan. In this way, I shall be free from all opposition, and it will be very pleasant to rule the world without obstruction. You may know also that Sambara, Naragasura, and Banasura are my intimate friends, and when I begin this war against the kings who support the demigods, they will help me considerably. Surely I shall be rid of all my enemies. Please go immediately to Vrindavan and encourage the boys to come here to see the beauty of Madura and take pleasure in the wrestling competition.
Killing the Keshi demon and Vyomasura. After being instructed by Kamsa, the demon Keshi assumed the form of a terrible horse. He entered the area of Vrindavan with the speed of the mind, his great mane flying and his hooves digging up the earth. He began to whinny and terrifying the whole forest. Krishna saw that the demon was terrifying all the residents of Vrindavan with his whinnying and his tail wheeling in the sky like a big cloud. Krishna could understand that the horse was challenging him to fight. The Lord accepted his challenge and stood before the Keshi demon, calling him to fight. The horse then ran toward Krishna, making a horrible sound like a roaring lion. His jaws spread wide open as if to swallow the whole sky. Keshi rushed towards the Lord and with great speed and tried to trample him with his legs, which were strong, forceful, and as hard as stone. Krishna, however, immediately caught hold of his legs and thus baffled him. Krishna was somewhat angry, and thus he began to whirl the horse around. After a few rounds, he contemptuously threw him 100 yards away, just as Garuda throws a big snake. Thrown by Krishna, the horse immediately passed out, but after a little while, he regained consciousness and with great anger and force, again rushed toward Krishna with his mouth open. As soon as Keshi reached him, Krishna pushed his left arm within the horse's mouth, and it looked as though a big snake had entered a hole in the field. The horse felt great pain because Krishna's arm felt to him like a hot iron rod. Immediately his teeth fell out. Krishna's arm within the mouth of the horse at once began to expand, and Keshi's throat choked up. As the great horse suffocated, perspiration appeared on his body, and he threw his legs hither and thither. As his last breath came, his eyeballs bulged in their sockets, and he passed stool and urine simultaneously. Thus, the vital force of his life expired. When the horse was dead, his mouth became loose, and Krishna could extract his arm without difficulty. He did not feel any surprise that the Keshi demon was killed so easily, but the demigods in the sky were amazed, and out of their great appreciation, they offered Krishna greetings by showering flowers.
After this incident, Narada Muni, the greatest of all devotees, came to see Krishna in a solitary place and began to talk with him. "My dear Lord Krishna," he said, "you are the unlimited Supersoul, the supreme controller of all mystic powers, the Lord of the whole universe, the all-pervading personality of Godhead. You are the resting place of the cosmic manifestation, the master of all the devotees and the Lord of everyone. My dear Lord, as the Supersoul of all living entities, you remain concealed within their hearts, exactly as fire remains concealed in every piece of fuel. You are the witness of all the activities of the living entities, and you are the supreme controller within their hearts. You are self-sufficient before the creation. You existed, and by your energy, you have created all the material elements. According to your perfect plan, this material world is created by the interaction of the modes of nature, and by you it is maintained and annihilated. Although you are unaffected by all these activities, you are the supreme controller eternally. My dear Lord, you have advented yourself on the surface of this earth just to kill all the so-called kings who are actually demons. These hobgoblins are cheating people in the dress of the princely order. You have adventured yourself to fulfill your own statement that you come within this material world just to protect the principles of religion and annihilate unwanted miscreants. My dear Lord, I am therefore sure that the day after tomorrow I shall see demons like Chandura Mustika, and the other wrestlers and elephants, as well as Kamsa himself, killed by you. I shall see this with my own eyes. After this, I shall be able to see the killing of other demons like Shaka, Yavana, Mura, and Narakasura. I shall also see how you take away the Parijata flower from the kingdom of heaven, and how you defeat the king of heaven himself.
My dear Lord, Narada Muni continued, I shall then be able to see how you marry Princess, the daughter of Cinderella's kings, by paying the price of Kshatriya strength. Whenever a Kshatriya wants to marry a very beautiful and qualified daughter of a great king, he must fight his competitors and emerge victorious. Then he is given the hand of princess in charity. I also see how you save King Nirga from a hellish condition, said Narada Muni. This useful self-enact in 12 Srinivaka. I shall also be able to see how you keep your wife and Satyaman Kakajyo, and how you save the son of a Brahman from death after he has already been transferred to another planet. After this, I will be able to see you kill the Paundraka demon and gone to assess the kingdom of Kashi. I will see how you kill the king of Chedi and Dantavakra during the great sacrifice of Maharaj Yudhishthir. Beside all this, it will be possible for me to see many others similar activities while you remain in Dwarka. And all these activities performed by your grace will be sung by great poets throughout the world. And at the battle of Kurukshetra, you will take part as the chariot driver of your friend Arjuna. And the invincible death incarnation, eternal time, will be vanquished on deliverance assembled there. I shall see a large number of military force in that battlefield. My Lord, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. You are situated completely in the transcendental position, in perfect knowledge and bliss. You are completely in fulfilling all your desires. By exhibiting your eternal potency, you have set out the influence of Maya. Your unlimited potency cannot even be measured by anyone. My dear Lord, you are the supreme controller. You are under your own eternal potency, and it is simply vain to think that you are dependent on any of your creations.
Now you have been taken back in the other dynasty, after Vishnu and dynasty. You would advent on the surface of the earth in the original form of eternal graceful knowledge is your own pastime. You are not dependent on anything but yourself. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. After offering his respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna, Narada Muni took permission and left. Narada Muni wanted to impress upon people in general that Krishna is fully independent. His activities such as his appearance in the family of Yadu or his friendship with Arjuna do not necessarily oblige him to have to enjoy their results. They are all pastimes, and for him they are all play. But for us, they are actual, tangible facts.
After he had killed the Kesi demon, Krishna returned to tending the cows with his friends in forest as though nothing had happened. Thus, Krishna is eternally engaged in his transcendental activities in Vrindavan with his friends, the cowherd boys, and the gopis. But sometimes he exhibits the extraordinary prowess of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by killing different types of demons. Later that morning, Krishna went to play with his cowherd boyfriend on the top of Govardhan Hill. They were imitating the play of thieves and police. Some of the boys became police, constables, and some became thieves. And some
Concludes our hour this week of reading Krishna books with Srila Prabhupada. We want to thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for giving us this time to come and serve you in this way. As always, let us offer our respectful obeisances to Srila Prabhupada and to each other. Namo
Padaya Krishna
Vishnu
Prastaya
Prastaya
Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nidhi Nami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Bhakchat Desakari Trupyacha Kriva Chindipyevacha Padidanam Pavanepyo Vaishnavepyo Namo Namaha.
And due to some technical difficulty, we weren't able to record online as usual, but we'll resume again next week. So for all of you who are online participants, bring your Krishna books, and we'll be starting with chapter 38, Akrura's arrival in Vrindavan. And I've just been reminded that the time has been changed. So the new time now is from 4 o'clock till 5 o'clock here in Prabhupada's house in Vrindavan. Haribol! Jai Krishna Bol! Haribol!
Krishna.